Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to 100 Yards of Football. Another episode here with the Falcons Weekly Report. Unfortunately, the Falcons have a loss that they bring home. They're 8-8 after their Sunday night game in front of a primetime audience against the Washington Commanders. And along with me to discuss last week's game and then this coming week against Carolina is Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, and obviously the host and founder of the show. That's Vincent Turner. Logan, let's begin with you. Tough loss against an amazing crowd, a really excited and motivated Washington arena there at the stadium. The fans were on their feet for almost the entirety of the second half. A great win for the Commanders. But again, we're not doing a Commander show. This is a Falcon show. That's a tough loss that the Falcons took up there on Sunday evening.
It's a heartbreaking loss, Harper. Going into that game, we knew it was going to be tough. Washington at that point had already had 10 wins, so they had already exceeded expectations in my mind for this 2024 campaign. Falcons, Grady Jarrett put it perfectly. We're fighting for our lives, basically. We're not out of breath quite yet, but boy, it feels like that was just a punch in the gut with that loss to Washington, 30-24. In overtime also, which just kind of just hurt a little bit more. There was a lot of issues in the game. Michael Penix went 19 of 35, 223 yards. Look, he's still a rookie, right? He's still getting used to things. I'm not putting everything on him. Then a lot of the criticism was with the time management, the timeout that could have been used for Raheem Morris. I might be in that camp too, fellas. That was look, you had the time was winding down. You could have used the timeout that you had in your back pocket. It wasn't like you finished the game with one still at your disposal, and they decided not to use it for whatever reason that may be. Bright spot for the Falcons. Also, guys, their defense. They got 5 sacks. They really helped out their team. I thought the defense, like I said, gave up 30 points, but I thought as a unit they looked a lot better overall. Caden Ellis had a nice interception as well. Had, like I said, the 5 sacks, which was nice to see. Riley Patterson, 1 of 2. He kicked that one that, boy, it was right down the middle, but just a little bit short, and that kind of just dashed all hopes and dreams for Falcons fans. And when you got Jaden Daniels, who in just his first year has already turned this team upside down and in a great way. He got the game-winning drive there in OT, touchdown there to Zach Ertz. Called it, and that was it. That was ball game. So looking at the Falcons right now, I felt good after last week. With Michael's debut the week prior, things looked good. The running game, I thought overall, like I said, 126 yards, which isn't awful, right? It wasn't like they got nothing, but I feel like we also maybe could have got a little bit more. But Bijan had 2 touchdowns. It's like with the Falcons, it feels like it's 1 step forward, but yet 2 steps back, right? You see some positive, but then there's some negative stuff. And it's just unfortunate, right? The fact that this team had commanding, no pun intended, in first place, was looking great. Then it slipped away, quarterback change. Might have been too little too late, right? It might have, if we would have put Michael in there a week or 2 earlier, who knows? We might be a game or 2 up in first instead of fighting for our lives and not in the playoffs at this moment. And now we're just hoping to be above 500 in the year. I just feel kind of slighted by this team. I felt that it was a game we could have won, but just a lot of things came tumbling. And it was a rough loss. I'm not going to lie. That hurt. That might have been the most hurtful loss of the year because it was right there at our fingertips, guys. And unfortunately, we just could not come away with a W.
Well, you a lot there for obvious reasons. And Vincent, let's go with you. Some frustrations from the get-go. A first drive pick. Falcons get behind, but boy, they fought back. Talk about the roller coaster ride of the ups and downs and what it meant for you to watch this game and the way it unraveled right before our very eyes.
I thought it was maybe the best Sunday night game of the year. I mean, you had 2 young quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 in the 2024 draft. I didn't really look when Michael Penix threw that first pick on that first drive because I knew this about him. He was a guy that battled back from a lot of adversity. 2 and torn ACLs. Think about that. He was at Indiana. Think about that. Went out to Washington. Led them to a national championship game. And he was ready for this moment. I enjoyed the football game. The only thing that I take away was so disappointing is that how they lost the game. They was up 17-7 at halftime and come out and don't do nothing offensively. Especially after Jaden Daniels went on that first drive. I think it was a 15-play drive, 70-yard drive. You come back first play, you run the ball with Bijan. Come on, man. You know Dan Quinn was going to make adjustments because the Falcons was running the ball in the first half. You should have play action and start going down the field and really open it up. That's what I was frustrated. Third quarter, you only had 1 yard offense. And then when you had to throw the young man from Tampa, Florida, showed you what he could do. But overall, I'm disappointed because at the beginning of the year, like it or not, this is a very talented football roster the Atlanta Falcons have. Talented. And they would still have the best roster in the NFC South. And blow a 3-game lead, that's what's in my heart. That you didn't want to make that change at the quarterback position. I make it pundit. No, this is no hard feelings toward Kirk Cousins, but he was injured. Obviously, he wasn't healthy. You saw that in practice. A little bit too late. Because now you're not going to make the playoffs. But as far as the game, to me, it was the best Sunday night game of the year. Like you said, Hart, from start to finish, the crowd was in it. It had that Super Bowl electric atmosphere in it. 2 young guns, and they was going at it. And I didn't know this. They work out together in California in the summer. It was a very enjoyable football game, man. But unfortunately, the Falcons, it wasn't going to be their night. And I'm going to leave it at that. To me, they still have the best talent in the NFC South. To me, they still the best team. It's just like they say in the neighborhood from the 901, a little bit too late. Because the coffee has changed. The door is closed. And the Falcons are going to be home. That's a shame with a talented football team they got. Back to you, Arthur.
Yeah, it's amazing the way they fought back, the way they did. Like I mentioned, that first drive for the Falcons, they win the toss. They take the ball. They get it out to midfield, pick, and now they're fighting back. They get a lead, though, Logan. They were up 17-7 at the half. I know that was it Lisa Saunders that did the interview with Dan Quinn. He goes, yeah, we got to stop the run. And that's all he really told us is, yeah, we need to stop. And boy, did they ever do that in the third quarter. 3 and out, and then the time of possession in the third quarter was amazing. That's when me as a Falcon fan goes, oh, no, not another game that's slipping away. Am I wrong? It's just slipping away. We have a lead. We're commanding. We're right in position. We just like in a Super Bowl, just like in any overtime. What are we doing? And we take a game that is in our hands and we control. And then next thing you know, we're looking up and we need to score late in the ball game in order to tie it up.
I mean, that's kind of how it's felt for this Falcons team, like you said, Harper, for countless years at this point. I can't even give you a number. I don't know if it's the locker room in terms of just players' mindsets, coaching. I don't know what the heck it is, but it feels like for years now with this Falcons unit, and after quarterbacks, coaches, et cetera, that we just can't hold on to a lead. There is no safe lead in Atlanta. I don't care if we're up by 20. I don't care if we're up by 30. Look, and I can tell you this, it really feels like it's Atlanta sports, honestly. It doesn't have to be the Falcons. It can be the Hawks. It can be the Braves. Look, when the Braves won the World Series 4 years ago when we were up by like 6 runs, I was still nervous because even though we had 2 outs, that's just how it's felt like it's been in the city for so long.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's some curse out there or what, but I will say one thing, though, and it's what we brought up last week, guys. It's what all of us said that the Falcons need to do, and they did not do. And that is to make sure you have somebody roaming out there to stop Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels ran the ball 16 times for 127 yards. Him alone, he alone had more yards than the Falcons as a team for rushing yards. So we gave them the game plan. I'm sure they had it, but they failed to execute. 216 total rushing yards Washington had. Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal performance. He did get 5 sacks, like I said earlier, but it doesn't really matter at this point because he drove him down. We've seen that he has that clutch gene, and he got him the win in overtime. Like we've seen time and time again, that if you give Jaden the ball when there's limited time on the clock, when he's back against the wall, right? When it's go time, pressure makes diamonds. And we've seen that he did it in college, a phenomenal quarterback at Louisiana State University. Go Tigers. And now went to the NFL, and he's continued to do very well for himself. And that's why Washington has became a team that was a top 5 pick last year and is now going to the playoffs. So that just speaks to how well he is. And also Dan Quinn, the coaching, you got to give credit to that and saying, look, we know how good we are. You believe your hype. We know we're a good team, and we can beat this team who has looked rough in recent weeks. They got the dominant win the week prior, but it's still a team that hasn't proven it yet this season. And here we are, guys, 8-8. And instead of us potentially, I know a lot of us said at the season, before the season kicked off, we thought 10 wins. Heck, maybe even 12 wins if things were really rolling. I don't think any of us thought it was going to be Kirk Cousins was going to be on the bench and we might even be below 500 to end the season. I didn't see that. So, I'm just disappointed in the way this game went last week. And like you said, we had a 17 lead. We were up at halftime, 17-7, and it was a game we easily could have won, held on to, but in the end, it just didn't go that way once again for the Falcons.
Well, Zach Ertz and Olamide Zaccheaus, Vincent, those are two names that I'm, especially Zaccheaus is a former Falcon and did his damage against his former team. He had 8 receptions, only 85 yards. I thought he had more than that, so I have to admit I was a little surprised that it was only 85 because, man, that dude, especially over the middle, was catching everything. And then Zach Ertz, obviously the touchdowns. You hate to get beat that way.
You got to give credit to Cliff Kingsbury, man. I think he's been really the main focus of Jaden Daniels really being the player he has this year in the National Football League and obviously the Rookie of the Year. What I looked at last Sunday night was just how he called the game. If you notice how Cliff Kingsbury calls the game, Jaden Daniels doesn't make a lot of throws that's in harm's way. He does a lot of check downs, and he takes what the defense gives him, and they pick out the weak link on your defense. And I'm going to say this, and I'm giving it back to you, Hart. For the Philadelphia Eagles, even though you're looking good as a championship team, man, you got to be crazy you let Zach Ertz walk. That guy still has a lot of talent. That's a Pro Bowl tight end. And to be with a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels right now, that's why the Washington Commanders are a team they are. They're a very dangerous team, and they're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. Back to you, Hart.
Hey, you mentioned tight end. It was good to see with the Falcons' perspective when you got Kyle Pitts get in the end zone. A little too little, a little too late. Talk about Kyle and his game. They went to him a couple of times. I think it was really neat how he's become a part of the offense again.
Well, you hear so much around Kyle Pitts, and I think, number one, he was drafted on the Arthur Smith regime. Obviously, I don't know what was going on in the locker room. I don't know, but obviously Arthur Smith just didn't like the guy. The word was that Kyle Pitts was not a good blocker. But all I know, the guy was a hell of a football player at the University of Florida and put up numbers, and he went 4th overall for a reason. Then you're looking at the quarterback play last year with Desmond Ridder. Let's face reality, it was horrible. It wasn't good. So when you got a player like that, and you can't get him the ball, then what do you think is going to happen? And then it amazes me. Everybody want to say he's a bust. That's what I don't understand. Look who's had under the center since he's been here. Then Kirk Cousins. There you go. And then
5 different quarterbacks with Matt Ryan,
okay,
Mariota, Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, Kirk Cousins, and now you got your 6. If you're going to stick with Michael Penix,
If
6
I'm
guys.
if my memory sets me right, he had 1,000 yards in his first year with Matt Ryan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that tells you that's a guy that can throw the ball. But think about what you saw the other night. Even though he had 2 receptions, look at the energy. Had a touchdown. Look at Michael Penix, the ability to get you the ball in the right spots. There was one play in that game. It was the opening drive. And this is what tells you the talent of Michael Penix. That throw he did with Kadale Hodge on the money. Kadale Hodge couldn't hold on because he took a hit from the safety, Jeremy Chin from Washington. But Harper, you played the game, man. When you got a quarterback that can make all the throws and get you the ball, your life is going to be better. You're going to put up better numbers. When you got bad quarterback play, I don't understand how people can sit up and say Kyle Pitts he's a bust. He don't run routes. He doesn't do this. Hell, when you don't have a quarterback that can get you the ball, what do you expect? And that just makes me just want to cringe, because are we watching the same game? Back to you, Hart.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bust. I just think he was underused or something happened, and they couldn't get the ball to him. I know that's a big if, but you mentioned Cordero Hodge. He was targeted 4 times, 1 reception. I wouldn't want to be Cordero Hodge's ribs or his backbone or his hips. He got beat up, man. That dude, he had a full dead-on car wreck that he went through there in Washington. Ray McLeod, and I'm going to go with you next, Logan. 5 targets for Darnell Mooney. He only has 2 receptions. Kyle was targeted 5 times. He had 4 receptions. If you want to mention any of those guys in your comments, but how about a breakout for Drake London in front of a national audience? Man, that dude was getting open when we needed him, making really sweet catches. Didn't get in the end zone, but he blocked, and several big plays. He averaged 15 yards of reception against the Commanders. Got to feel good about that.
Yeah, I feel great about that. And I'm glad that Drake is finally getting a little bit of his flowers now, a couple of years into the league. Look, we knew what a talent he was when he was drafted out of USC in 2022. But, I mean, just looking at his numbers so far this year, guys, I don't think a lot of – I know we do because we follow him week by week, but I think a lot of the national pundits are starting to see now that how well Drake has done this year. So he's 11th in the league in receptions with 90. He's 10th in the league with in terms of reception yards of 1,084, and he's tied for 15th with 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's really had a solid year. And like I said, this is now with 2 quarterbacks. So, I mean, we talk about Kyle Pitts and the slew of quarterbacks he had, but, I mean, heck, Drake London's had, not as many, but it feels like just as many here in just a short amount of time. So, I'm glad that he had a great game and got some recognition.
Run game, we'll stick with you, Logan. Bijan had 90 yards. Tyler Algier, only 3 touches, 19 for him. Penix had a couple of sacks. He broke the pocket a couple times. He's not going to be Michael Vick, folks. He's just not. He can't run a 4.2. So if he breaks the line of scrimmage, I'm just hoping he gets down as quickly as he can if he can get the first down. I don't need a 50-yard play. I'll let his arm do that. Give me your thoughts about the running game. I think the offensive line, too, also, I'm going to interrupt you before I even ask a question. Offensive line did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so, for the running game, Bijan, this is back-to-back weeks now where he's had 90 or more yards. This past week, 17 carries, 90 yards, 5.3 average, right, 2 touchdowns. And we saw last week against New York, 22 carries for 94 and 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, I'm looking at his numbers on the years guy, and he only has 4 games in which he has over 100 rushing yards or more. The rest, I mean, it's still higher numbers, right? It's in 60 or above, give or take. But I mean, I don't know if this is really. I mean, I love Bijan, right? But I don't know if he's going to be the number 1 option on this team. I mean, in terms of, because I mean, you look at guys obviously like Saquon, like Derrick Henry, so on and so forth. you see those guys getting constantly 100 plus yards like it's nothing. And I don't know if we need to maybe change up a couple of looks or what it may be, but I feel like we still have a little bit of time to mold Bijan into a even better running back. I think he's done great so far since he was drafted. I mean, just how he's done so far this year. He's 5th in terms of carries, 276, 4th in terms of yards with 1,286. So, I mean, he's putting the work in, but you're not seeing those big games, right? He's consistent, which you love to see. He's Mr. Consistency. But I would just love to see just give me an extra 20 yards per game, and that would help out. But and then as for Tyler Algier, I feel like, I don't know, guys. It feels like they're and yes, he was a backup, but I feel like they've really kind of just taken him out of the playbook some. Because like I said, he only had 3 carries this past week. Last week against New York, he only had 11. So I feel like they're really not maybe utilizing him nearly as much as last year, which, look, we all know the debacle of the running game or the offense last year. But I really think they put Tyler in the backseat and said, all right, look, we'll just not use you nearly as much this year as compared to years past. And I mean, on the year, he's got 128 carries. And then looking at his numbers from 2023, he had 186. So they're not using him nearly as much. I mean, also the production's just not quite there to the level he was at last year. But I mean, I thought also, just touching on the O-line, I thought that they did fine. I thought they did a good job. They gave guys enough space to create. But overall, I think that there feels like they're maybe trying to phase out Algier a little bit. But for Bijan, I still think he's doing great work. But I still think he can be even better, honestly.
Tyler's numbers used to figure it this way. This is just my math, is that for every 2 carries that Bijan gets, Tyler would get 1. So at the end of the game, if Bijan had 20 carries, Tyler would have probably 10, maybe 12, sometimes 8, just depends. 17 carries versus 3, 23 total carries for the Falcons. Ray had 1 big gain, 14-yarder. I saw this, Vincent. There was a time where they showed Dan Quinn on the sidelines, and he's doing this, and they were talking about it being NASCAR or whatever the code was that they were aware of in the booth. I saw him do this, and then I heard him. Well, I didn't hear him, but I saw his mouth. I'm not a good lip reader, but I know what to look for. And he said, yeah, send them all. In other words, bring the rush. I don't care if you bring linebackers or a safety or whatever he was talking about with his coordinator, send them. Put the pressure on. And I thought the Falcons did a pretty good job. Michael Penix was sacked twice, but Vincent, we just weren't able in the fourth quarter. We get 1 touchdown, but we had a field goal that we missed. There were 2 in the game that we missed. There were just so many chances to win this game and put it away. And unfortunately, I'm throwing my socks and other soft cotton type products at my television trying to get a win. Your thoughts there on anything that I said that would be worthy of comment?
No, I think what we got is what I came away from this game. This is a team that's got a bright future. A lot of people, y'all need to understand, reason the Falcons had so many, I want to say, ebbs and flows with the offense and with the team this year is at the quarterback position. 4-game losing streak, the offense wasn't playing that well. Defense kind of took a step back because of the offense. Defense is going to have those games in the regular season. But I came away saying this is a Falcons team that's got a lot of potential. As far as Bijan Robinson, I think he's where I like him to be at. I think he's one of the top 5 backs in the league. I don't mind him sharing with Tyler Algier, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. These are some very good football players. They should be Pro Bowl players. If I have to say one thing about the Falcons, I need them to really strengthen the offensive line. I think they need another good tackle. I think that Caleb McGarry experiment should be over. They're paying him a lot of money. He's still giving up sacks. But I think once Michael Penix next season coming into training camp, having more reps and starting from game 1, I think you're going to see a different Atlanta Falcons football team, a team that should be favored to win the NFC South. Only thing I take away from the game, they had chances, like you say, Harp, to win that football game, and they didn't. But that's all right, though. The positive aspect you found to your quarterback. A guy like Buck Belue said can spin it. And somebody brought up Drake London. Look how Drake London played the other night. The ball came to him like this. He didn't have to lunge. Even Kyle Pitts' touchdown, the ball came to him like this in the perfect spot.
Yeah.
That young man got a nice arm.
Yeah.
And the Falcons' future is very, very well. Now, I'm not going to throw no shots at the coaching staff, but I would say this, is Raheem Morris the right guy to take him to the next level? Is Zach Robinson, the OC, is a man that could take him to the next level? But you got your quarterback. And like you said, Harp, he's not going to be Michael Vick. But you know who he can be? The left-handed Warren Moon. Yeah. Back to you, Harp.
Look at stay with me there, Vincent, for just a second. Do I, as a fan, need to be patient now, knowing that my rookie? Now I've got a guy we just played in Washington. They're going nuts. He's a rookie. They're so much further than where their expectation was that they're going bonkers and they're selling the place out. If I'm in Denver and I got a rookie in Bo Nix and they're going to make the playoffs if they win this week. Now that's a tall order, but I'm pretty excited. But you had to be patient. You got to sit. I could be in New Orleans right now with Spencer Rattler. I'm not feeling very good if I'm in New Orleans. That's not my guy. I don't think he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Right. I'm not a New Orleans fan. I could care less. But now I got to sit tight and be patient is what you're telling me, right? Because this is a young guy. He's got to go through these ropes, and we got to learn how to win together with a different guy leading us.
No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, coming in the next season, your expectations should be even greater. Because let's be honest, when you draft these quarterbacks high, regardless they played in the league or not, there's always going to be expectations to me. And based on the team you have, Kyle Pitts, first rounder. Drake London, first rounder. Bijan Robinson, first rounder. So, I mean, hey, expectations, man. That's how you win in this league, drafting. Do I have to bring up AKA again, Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions? Do I have to say that one more time? No. Me as a Falcons fan, coming in the next season, you should have a lot of season tickets bought because you should be excited about this young man. Expectations should be off the roof. Leave you with this. The one thing that Michael Penix can do, he can get the ball outside to the receivers. Yeah, he's going to make some mistakes. Yeah, he's going to throw a couple of interceptions. But what I saw that ball coming out, his hands very nice, and he knew where to go with the football. And he's very mature. Got to be 25 in the second year in the league. He's seen a lot. He's played a lot. He's played on the big stages, man. He got Washington to the national championship game. And the stage wasn't big for him. Think about this, gentlemen. His first start was against the New York Giants, a really bad football team. He goes to Washington. Jaden Daniels is playing real well. They're a playoff team. All that pressure on him. And I think if you had to give him a grade, I'd give him an A plus. Because if Kirk Cousins wouldn't have been under center, blowout city. Back to you, Harper.
Well, here's an interesting scenario. You mentioned a lot of things. You mentioned all the number one draft picks. You got Matthews, you got McGeary, and Lindstrom are all number ones, right? Bergeron is a second rounder. So there's a lot of talent around in that organization, at least from the offensive perspective that's on the field right now. Very interesting perspective. And I've said this before, and if I've said it on this show, please forgive me for repeating myself. When Michael Penix showed me against Texas last year, they played Texas, and then they played Michigan. And before they played Texas, I'm watching this guy, and they're talking about him. And, I hadn't really seen him much. But he threw a screen pass, a little bubble screen. And the ball was in his hands. He did not have the laces. And he gets it, and he's a lefty, so he goes to his right, and he flings it to his right out to a receiver. And it got there. So let's say it was Romaduzzi. He catches the ball, and there's about a 4-yard gap between him and the defender who's going to cover him, and he's coming to attack him. 3 yards, one step, and he's one. But Aduse had enough time to make a move, and next thing you know, he's 7 yards up the field, and he gets tackled by the linebacker and the safety who are coming to get him. A 2-yard loss became a 7-yard gain because he got the ball quicker. He did it once where I said, that's just like what he did against Texas. He got the ball in the receiver's hand so stinking fast that the guys were open. Look at how many open routes that we had. Near the end of the game when Drake runs a 15-yard out route, the ball was in his hands, and the receiver, the defender, the DB, wasn't anywhere in the picture. So wide open. We haven't seen a whole lot of that in the past. So tell me where I'm wrong, Logan, in that one of the exciting things about watching this guy is how quickly he gets the ball out of his hand and into a guy's hand who he wants to go to while he's open.
No, I mean, you're 100% correct with that, Harper. And that's what I've really enjoyed with watching Michael play in the last couple of games is you see, a lot of rookies come into the league and they might, have, I just call it maybe a little bit of stage fright, right? They don't know where to go. They're looking around. They have it set on maybe like a number one receiver, right? They just have their eyes, tunnel vision locked on them. I don't get that with Michael, though. I see a guy who's actively looking around at his surroundings, seeing who is the most open for me to whip this ball through, because we know he can throw the ball as quick as he can possibly think. It's blink and you miss it type of speed. But I really enjoy. I think he is a solid decision maker, and like you said, he takes it. It's like he gets the ball, and then half a second later, it's already out of his hands. That's how quick it is. And I think over time, as he gets more comfortable in the league, as he just gets more game experience, that's really going to learn to pay off. Because, like you said, those lightning quick decisions, that's instant. That's knowing your team, knowing where your players are going to be. And for him to play, in now his just second full-time game, I'm really impressed by that. So I think he's only going to get better, and gosh, even quicker at getting the ball out, which I don't think is possible, maybe. But I really like the way he's able to read progressions before he throws the ball beautifully left-handed also. So I like that from Michael, and I think he's only going to get better as he gets more experience in the league.
Well, he's just under 60% with his completion percentage right now. That'll improve. A couple of the misses that he went high and away. I'd rather have that than, it'd be behind the receiver or, in somebody else's hands. So things that we'll work on. Certainly the future is bright for the Falcons, but obviously they come away with a game that they had to win in order to stay in control of the division. They don't. It's upsetting. It did go to overtime. All the things that we could look at, but it ends up being another loss with the Falcons. They're 8-8. And let's look right now at the upcoming schedule. They've got to win against Carolina. And I think that's a pretty easy thing to do. But Carolina's been playing pretty well of late. They benched their quarterback. They went with their backup. They didn't like the results there. They go back to Bryce Young. Chuba Hubbard is a pretty dynamic player. But defensively, I think we should be able to take advantage of him. Again, where am I wrong? Vincent, we'll start with you in the upcoming game. Just give me a scouting report about Carolina and what the Falcons need to do to win.
Bryce Young has played well over the last couple of weeks. Still struggles at times. They got a quiet receiver in Xavier Leggett, who's put up some modest numbers. This is a Carolina team that they're trying to find their way. But I'm glad for the fact that their quarterback play has improved a lot. With the Falcons, you're a better team. You got the guy now under center. You should win this game easily. You got more talent. There's no question about it. And it's a winnable game. Now, I will be disappointed if they take a step back and lose this game. And I start looking at Raheem Morris. Really. Such as maybe pink slip. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, we hope that doesn't happen. I mean, that's a decision that front office will have to worry about. But Logan, basically, even if you win, a lot has to happen. Tampa has a game on you because they end up beating Carolina last week. They schooled Carolina. They blocked a kick. They were unstoppable offensively, very impressive. what has Carolina got to do to kind of get their act together? They're all fighting for jobs there too. They watch film. They know the situation. They want to play well. Talk about Carolina's situation and what they bring into Atlanta here on Sunday at 1:00.
It's going to be the Bryce Young show, guys. It's going to be him and pretty much him alone. They did say Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be out. He's on the injured reserve. They placed him there a couple days ago. So, I mean, that's your top rusher and a dynamic playmaker, a guy who's got you over 1,000 yards on the ground, 10 touchdowns. He's not going to be there. Your next leading rusher is Bryce Young at 225 yards. So there's going to be a very minimal running attack, a lot of throwing the ball. With Bryce, we know, like I said, we've seen good glimpses of him earlier this season, but just watch out for him because, he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Like you mentioned, Adam Thielen, the crafty veteran there. Xavier Legette, this might be the game, Vincent and Harper, that he could have a breakout game where people saying, look, there was talks early in the year about him dropping passes and whatnot, especially in timely decisions as well. This could be a game where he steps up to end the year on a high note and maybe knock the Falcons out of playoff contention once and for all. Who knows? So I expect just a lot of throwing the ball for Bryce Young. Also, to Carolina as a team, they've got 31 sacks on the year. Their leading guy is going to be Ashawn Robinson. He's got 5.5. Davion Clowney. He's with the Panthers, if you didn't know, 4.5 on the year for him. So they've got some good talent overall, but like I said, they're 4-12. They just haven't been able to piece it together. They had the big win over Arizona a couple of weeks ago, but that was mostly in part to Chuba Hubbard, who, as I mentioned earlier, is not going to be at the team. Had 150-plus yards on the ground, a couple touchdowns. So that's a big factor that you're missing. So if you're Carolina, look, you're just hoping to play spoiler this week. You're not going to the playoffs, obviously. You're hoping, if you lose, you're going to get better draft picks. If you win, you'll for sure knock one of your rivals out of the playoffs. No doubt about that. And if you're Atlanta, look, I mean, you have to win this game. If you don't win this game, like Vincent alluded to, there might be some pink slips. If there's not pink slips, there might be a stern talking to, not just to Raheem Morris, but to general manager and a lot of personnel up there, because this would be just a absolute punch to the gut if you lose this game to end the year in a season, honestly, where you were expected to win. Look, the Falcons were expected to win this division. I mean, I wouldn't say handedly, but I mean, they were supposed to win this, in a pretty winnable fashion compared to the rest of the talent in this NFC South. So you have to win this game. If you don't, then there's going to be a very interesting offseason, I think, in Atlanta.
One of the things, real quick, Logan, that you mentioned that, improvement with Bryce Young, and it's going to be his game. One of the things that I've seen improvement is the defensive pass rush. We're getting sacks. We're attacking the quarterback a little bit differently. What's happened in your eyes that has kind of opened up the defense to the way that they're calling plays, and guys like Arnold Ebiketie are now becoming guys that can get to the quarterback, where for a couple of years we haven't seen Arnold do a whole heck of a lot. What a nice turnaround, especially from the outside.
No, it's been nice to see. I mean, look, we talked about it for felt like 14 weeks in a row. just look, guys, we got to get to the pass rush. We were, dead last for the longest by a good margin, and now we've seen in recent weeks that we're finally getting pressure. I'm seeing a lot more packages, like you said, for Arnold, who I'm glad he's finally having a breakout couple of weeks. Matthew Judon has turned it on also. He came out the gate slow, but here recently he's looked better. Caden Ellis has been one of the best defensive players for the Falcons all year. He's looked really sharp. I've loved the way he's played, and I think it'll be even better next year whenever they pick up whoever in free agency, whoever they might get in the draft. Also, let's not forget Braylon Trice, a guy who they drafted out of Washington, who was supposed to be their kind of go-to sack guy this year. He hasn't even touched the field. He was hurt all year. So we're getting that next year, which that makes me look forward to. But I think that, got to give credit to the defense, to all the coordinators over there, all the coaches, and how they've been able to come up with just different looks, right? Saying, all right, we're going to blitz this linebacker. All right, corner blitz, you can come on in. Hell, we can throw safety on there. You can come in to just apply more pressure, and it creates more turnovers, creates more pressure, creates more bad throws. And that's, what I've liked about Atlanta here in recent weeks is like you said, Harper, they're getting better, just they're making things tougher on their opponents. Like I said, it's not perfect yet, but I do like the way that they've looked here in recent weeks. I think it's been a lot better watching. Just as a fan, it's been great saying, instead of saying, come on, you got to get to the quarterback to, all right, yeah, you got a sack. Good work there, guys. And it's been a nice change of pace, and hopefully we can continue this Sunday.
Yeah, it was interesting, Vincent, that Chris Collinsworth and Tirico ended up kind of discussing the Falcons secondary, the linebackers, where Caden Ellis comes, or does Bertrand come? And first of all, I'm going, Landman's out, Anderson's out. I mean, here's J.D. Bertrand, a rookie for Notre Dame, who's being given some valuable playing time right now. He's a little bit smaller than some of the guys, but he just does it. He's got a nose for the football, and I think that's why they got him in the first place, is because he can do that. But then you add Omanyata and Grady, of course. We mentioned Ebiketie. Carter was around the ball. Lorenzo was. Ruka Rororo's getting some time. It's pretty interesting to see how the defense is kind of starting to gel together. A little late. We would have loved it against Pittsburgh in week 1, but give me some of your thoughts regarding the defense and especially the front 7, linebackers.
You mentioned the Bertrand kid. I thought he's played very well on Sunday night. Very total surprise, but he wasn't expecting no other way. He came out of Notre Dame, local kid, played at Blessing Trinity, won a state championship. I think when you look at over, Jimmy Lake has improved as a defensive coordinator. The talent level, Matthew Jordan is starting to really play well. He's a veteran, so that trickles down to everybody else. And remember, they still got Grady Jarrett. But I really feel like the defense was already there. I think the reason they was being inconsistent because, again, the offense, the Michael Penix effect, it goes through the football team. But if I see one thing the Falcons have to improve on next year, it was a couple of tackles in that game that were very critical. Remember, A.J. Terrell missed that tackle on Chris Rodriguez, a local kid from the Atlanta area, when Rodriguez went in for that touchdown late in the game. And then D. Alford, in respect to him, he had a lot of problems in that as a slot corner. So the Falcons, to me, going into the 2025 draft, needs to probably beef up their secondary a little bit. But overall, I just think Jimmy Lake started just calling the defense better. He came under a lot of fire in the middle of the season. Everybody said they weren't getting sacks. But when you put a quarterback in, to me, that's a trickle-down effect. The defense is going to play better. And the Falcons have got talent all over the side of the ball. So it's not surprising that they start getting after the quarterback. That's just my personal opinion. But back to you, Hawk.
Yeah, defense does, no matter where you are, it always plays better when you know the offense is going to have the ability to score. Look at Detroit. They were tight in a game last night against San Francisco. San Francisco's a good team now. Offensively, they're amazing. They just can't stop anybody. And Detroit figured that out in the third quarter. They go from being behind, they get ahead, and then they end up just pulling away. Hopefully the Falcons will be in that stage soon enough. But for right now, give me your final thoughts, Logan. Go instead of being disappointed like we were last year and depending on Jameis Winston to take a knee and end up scoring a meaningless touchdown at the end of the season in New Orleans, the Falcons are fighting for a playoff spot. They're just a win in New Orleans isn't going to do us any favors, but they might do one for themselves. And if they end up beating Tampa and we win against Carolina, we're in the playoffs. It's a long search. It's going to take a while to kind of figure all this stuff out, but it still can happen. But going into final thoughts here from this week's show, going into week 18 as we are right now, last week of the season, and we still have a chance.
So you're telling me there's a chance, Harper? There's a chance. We have a slim glimpse of hope here in Atlanta. Look, first things first, the Falcons have to take care of business. If they don't win, it don't matter what New Orleans does. That's the first thing. So you gotta beat Carolina. You should beat Carolina. You should beat Carolina handedly. Just when you compare the two rosters in terms of who's in, who's out, Atlanta should dominate this game, but who knows? And if you're a Falcons fan, unfortunately, you have to root for the New Orleans Saints. I know that hurts. I know you never want to do that, but you need a little bit of luck. You need Spencer Rattler. You need everyone else on New Orleans to snap their 3-game losing streak and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because if they do, we all know the Falcons have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay, which would propel them into the playoffs. So you got to take care of business first. You got to beat Bryce Young. Just watch out for him. Watch out for Adam Thielen and Xavier Legette, who I think could be an X factor in the game. Atlanta knows what they need to do. Just take care of business, win against Carolina, and then you just got to hope. Just hope that New Orleans can pull out a miracle here and knock off Tampa Bay. If you do, great. You're going to the playoffs and kind of hey, it don't matter how you get in, you get in. It's still you're going to the playoffs. But if they can't take care of business, it's just a little bit of just disappointing into the year. And it is what it is, but it don't mean nothing if you don't beat Carolina. So that's first things first.
All right, Vincent, same question to you.
I think obviously the Falcons are going to be heavily favored. They should win the football game. You got to rely on New Orleans. Let's say New Orleans doesn't win the game, Tampa gets in. I think the Falcons, as I said, they got a great future. Quarterback, I think they're going to be set for some years. But if they win on Sunday, say things, and that's a slight chance. We always want to say a chance. I thought about this last night. I thought about the city of Atlanta. And I thought about this gentleman, lead singer named Kurt Smith for Tears for Fears. Shout, shout, let it all out. Back to you, Harper.
That's not a Memphis tune. That's all right, though. It's okay. You're going back in the 80s with me.
Yes, sir. I love
Well,
Tears for Fears.
Worst case scenario, you lose another home game. Enough said. Okay, best case scenario is you win at home against a team that you should beat. I mean, for crying out loud, they're 4-12. It's the end of the year. They got nothing to play for, so let's make sure that they don't have anything to play for. Dominate early, and we'll see what happens. But it doesn't look good. We had a chance to control your own destiny on a couple of occasions during the season, and the Falcons weren't able to get it done. They certainly didn't in Washington, and the Commanders at 11-5, and under first-year coach Dan Quinn, who we know quite well. We just have to kind of watch. It was funny to me when they showed the picture of Dan Quinn and Arthur Blank. They gave each other a hug before the game. Arthur was on the sideline, but it just didn't work out. Dan obviously went to Dallas. He reset his career. Remember how badly we wanted him here. We waited for a week and another week for Seattle to get out of the Super Bowl in order to get him and to bring him in here. And in 2 years, we're about ready to have a parade. At halftime, we were ahead 28-3. We'll figure that one out some other time. But for this week's show, the Atlanta Falcons Weekly Report, we appreciate Logan and Vincent filling in. Obviously, Cornell wasn't able to join us today. We'll have one more show that we'll do at the end of the season. If Falcons win and they continue to play, then we'll keep going with the Falcon Report. But until then, for Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, and for Vincent, our co-founder and or co-host and founder of the show that you're watching here, 100 Yards of Football, I'm Harper Bell. We want to wish everybody a very merry, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas already happened, guys. Lots of football to go yet for the remainder of this year and then early in the next year. We hope you get to enjoy it as much as you physically and possibly can. So best of luck to everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. Have a fantastic day.